Hello, everybody. It's Leslie Denny reaching out to you here for Yoga Oceanside for Chair Yoga. It's 12 noon, a beautiful day in Oceanside, California. And I hope you're having a great day so far. So join me on the mat and let's get started. Chair on a mat. If you're on a wood floor like I am, or any other kind of tile floor, just to secure the chair from sliding, I like to use a block to rest my feet on. I've got lavender oil diffusing today because that just sounded so nice and relaxing to me. And I'm using an essential oil, neroli again. I constantly use neroli. It's really uplifting. It comes from the bitter orange tree. So if you have an oil that you like to use, feel free to put that on. And then we're also going to be using our strap today, bottle of water in case you get thirsty, as well as our notes for today's class. So I had a story to share with you that I stumbled upon, and certainly you may have already heard this story, but it's a wonderful story about Franz Kafka. And I went through numerous websites to say, is this true? And I could not find anything that negated this story as being a false story. So I'm running on the assumption that it is a true story, and it's really lovely. If you're not familiar with Franz Kafka, he was an author, and I would say also a philosopher with the things that he wrote about. But if you've never read any of his writings, I highly suggest it. And you don't have to get into the depth of a book if you don't care to. But the thing that really resonated with me about Kafka's writing, and still does, is that he's very accessible. When I read his writings, I feel like he's standing right in front of me telling a story. And it feels so wonderful to be able to read his writings. So I do highly recommend it. And this particular story really touched me, especially in these times. So I'm going to read it to you, so you'll probably see the top of my head most of the time. Franz Kafka lived from 1883 to 1924, and he never married, and he never had any children. And one day he was walking through a park at the age of 40 in Berlin, when he met this young girl who was crying because she lost her doll. And so he stopped and said, well, let's look for your doll. And they searched all over high and low, and they never found it. So Kafka told her to meet him the next day, and they would come back and they would look some more. So the next day, when they came back to the park, they started searching all over the place, and they never found it. And then Kafka gave the girl a letter that had been written by the doll. And it said, please don't cry. I took a trip to see the world. I will write to you about my adventures. And he left that with the little girl, and she went off. And so thus began a story which continued until the end of Kafka's life. During their meetings between him and the little girl, Kafka read the letters of the doll, carefully written with adventures and conversations that the girl found adorable. He was writing all of these, dreaming up these little adventures that the doll was making around the world. Finally, Kafka brought back the doll, which he had bought one, that had returned to Berlin. It returned. And the little girl said, that doesn't look like my doll at all. And he said, he handed it to her and then handed her another letter in which the doll wrote, my travels have changed me. The little girl hugged the new doll and brought her to her happy home. A year later, Kafka died. Many years later, this now adult young girl found a letter inside the doll. In the tiny letter signed by Kafka, it was written, everything you love will probably be lost, but in the end, love will return in another way. And that story just really, really touched upon my heart, because I thought about, you know, the lives that we're living right now. Change, constant change, and almost probably feels like a lot of the things that you love have been lost. And certainly we don't know how long loss endures, but the loss itself is a change. But if we have this ultimate faith in knowing that whatever we have lost, that we've loved, that has been lost, will be replaced by something else that we love. It's so true. I know that in our lives together, John and I we've always had cats, because especially in our working years up until just a few years ago, we traveled all the time. I mean, gosh, both of us had jobs. He was all over Europe and South Africa and would be going up to Russia. And then I was traveling to Dallas, and I'd be gone for long stretches of time. And we just always found that having cats was the best way to be, because we didn't want to have to put a dog in a kennel every time we turned around. And dogs required a more attention than cats did, so we thought. And so we always had cats. And we were talking the other day about the line of cats, the lineage of gatos that have come through our life. We started off when we first got married. He adopted my two cats, Juice and Jet, and we've always had orange tabbies for the most part. And then we went through this line of, when we would lose one, we would typically replace it, over time with another. And yet we remembered that we lived so vicariously within and around the lives of our little pets, that when loss would happen, didn't matter whether it was a long illness or whether something happened imminently and unexpectedly, the feeling was the same. It felt like I just lost something that I love and I'm never going to be able to replace it. And yet after time went by, we would typically get another cat, and then life would come rolling back again, and we would find this new thing that we loved. And even most recently, when we lost our cats before, and we got Merlin, the most recent addition to the family, it just helped not forget the loss or forget the love that we had for that prior pet, but it actually showed us that we can love again. And that was always a teaching that I was reared with, is that always remember that when you sustain the broken heart, no matter how much it gets shattered, it is designed to mend, heal, and you love again. And I have carried that lesson throughout my life. And when I read the story of Kafka and read that last phrase, everything you love will probably be lost, but in the end, love will return in another way. It always does. And so I shift my thinking around to, instead of, sometimes I start to kind of get mired into the things that I would like to do again, be physically in the same room with you, be able to hug somebody that I'm seeing, be able to greet them without a mask on my face, be able to do all of these things that I would like to do again. And yet, I think, don't be too hinged upon that as being the only source of love in your life, because love comes in so many different ways. And sometimes we go through certain experiences that begin to show us how love can be brought to us in other ways. I mean, my gosh, to me, the love that it took for the owner of Danette with Yoga Oceanside to pull together all of this. Some may say it was all business orientation, but I say it was with great love and passion for the studio and for her students, that she wanted to make sure that there was still this accessible path to be able to celebrate and practice. For me, not being able to go certain places means I just changed the way I did it. Socializing is just a little different, but the love is all still there. Being able to connect with family members and friends over the internet, being able to be here with you, reminds me that even though something that I loved was lost, it's coming back in a different way that I least expected. So in our practice, I think about that one a lot, that through the years that have passed, there's been many things within my practice that I loved doing when I was younger, but then all of a sudden it was lost. Either, I had an injury, or my body just didn't want to do that anymore, or maybe I just didn't want to do that anymore. And yet, just because that was lost didn't mean that something wouldn't start coming back around in a new way to help me continue the practice. And that's what I love about yoga, is that it's not one-dimensional, it's not two-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional. It has so many different facets and faces to it, and we can choose to pick one face or the other. And within our practice, that kind of flexibility means that we will have a practice that we will love for a lifetime, regardless of the fact that maybe some things will change that we love that we can't do. We still have so much more to pull from. So come to a comfortable seated posture. And just take a few deep breaths. Make sure you're comfortable in your seat, and then let your upper back just rest against your chair. Relax through your shoulders. And then as you're breathing, maybe tap into certain things that you love right now that maybe weren't available to you before. Things that have unfolded, that have brought you to this place of enjoyment, satisfaction. And then just hold on to a thought, a word, or a phrase that helps you stay connected with your practice today, whatever is meaningful to you. And then allow your chin to drop down to your chest, stretching through the back of your neck. And then roll the head over to one side and just go nice and easy. And then bring the chin to the chest and roll it to the other side. And then as you bring the chin to the chest, gently lift and tilt the chin up and out. And then bring the face back to level and turn the head from right to left. Very easy, so you're not forcing a stretch from one side or the other. Good. And then as you bring it back to neutral, just a nice relaxed neck, throat, go ahead and inhale to lift the chest up and exhale, round the back and roll the shoulders forward. So when I think of that story, I just think about the creativity of someone to think about this doll taking a trip around the world. And it reminded me of years ago, I'm sure you've heard this one, that there was somebody's gnome in a neighborhood, a little garden gnome, you know, that they sit in front of their gardens, little red hat and the white beard. Somebody took one and then started traveling around. They were going on a big long trip and they took the person's garden gnome with them and sent this family pictures of the garden gnome from all over the world. It was a little small one. And every time, pretty soon you look and here's the garden gnome in Italy and enjoying in an outdoor cafe. And then, you know, it moves on to Spain and is at a bullfight. You know, I mean, it's just like, it was such a funny story. And I think it was like a whole blog where this family just posted all these hilarious pictures of their garden gnome that went all over the world and finally returned home. Well, it reminded me of that, was this little doll traveling around the world. But it was all in the imagination of Franz Kafka, which was so lovely. And then just feel that cat-cow flow. And then one more time on an inhale, lift the chest, and then exhaling, draw that back to neutral. Go ahead and draw the arms out in front of you, elbow to elbow, hand to hand. And on the inhale, open up through the chest, and exhale, bring those arms forward. And if you need to drop the elbows a little bit because it makes your shoulders feel uncomfortable, that's fine. Just do what you have to do so that you can work through the practice that you love. That's what's important. And then one more time, open up through that chest, keeping the neck neutral. Make any adjustments to those elbows again. Take about 3 deep breaths right here. Now we're holding the elbows out to the either side, and we're going to be manipulating the arms a little bit to work the shoulders. So right from there, drop your hands down. And again, if you need to make a little adjustment with your shoulders, that's fine. And then shift the arms out to the side, then draw them back down, and then bring the hands back up. So this is a very nice way to, when we're here, you're going to feel that stretch through your deltoids. And then when we come here, you feel a little bit of stretch through the trapezius and the upper shoulders. And then we lift back up here, a little bit more stretch towards the pectoralis muscles. but it takes a little strength to do. So again, release those palms down and then extend the arms out, then draw the arms back in and then lift the hands. We're going to do that 2 more times. It also is strengthening because there is some muscle involved here in order to keep those arms up. So if you start to get too tense or it's not comfortable for you, just dial out of it. Remember, you don't have to love this. Good. And then lift the palms and then draw the arms together. Stack one elbow on top of the other if you can. Lift the elbows and stretch into that upper back. Take some deep breaths. And then release, draw the arms out, and then sweep them back in, opposite elbow on top if you can, and stretch into those shoulders and into that upper back. And then as you release from here, drop the hands back to your lap, right? Inhale, lift the chest, exhale, round the back, arch it out. Really tap into that deep breath. Good. And then bring it back to neutral. Sweep the right arm out to the side with the palm facing forward and bring the arm back. So now you're stretching right into the pec muscle and then turn the head to face away from it. Then try to hitchhike. Bring that thumb up and back as best you can. Really give a rotation to that arm. And then release from there. And sweep that opposite arm out. Bring the arm back to the point of gentle resistance and the stretch in your pec muscle. And then turn the head facing away. Just allow yourself to acclimate from here. And then go into that little hitchhiker where you bring that thumb back. And then release from there. Draw the hands to the lap. Inhaling, lift the chest. Exhale, arch it out. And then bring the back to neutral and come back to your chair again. Take a deep inhale and just relax. Good. How do you feel? I hope that feels good to you. So let's go ahead and we're going to move into a warrior two. So you may want to have your block to the side or out in front of you a little bit because we might use that block and I'll show you how. As you step your left foot out, draw the arms out from the shoulders and just move right into your warrior two. Good. Then graze your forearm to the thigh. If that feels like you have to reach and collapse too much, go ahead and draw your foot up on the block and you just gave yourself a little less space to have to negotiate. Then sweep that back arm up and over. Stretch right in. Good. We're going to do a little flow that we did quite a few weeks ago. On the inhale, draw that elbow back, open up through the chest. Exhale, sweep the arm up and alongside the ear. So inhaling, opening up. Exhale, bring that arm alongside the ear and stretch. And one more flow. Then release and switch it to the opposite side. Have your block handy if that was something that was comfortable for you, because you can certainly go ahead and rest the foot right away onto that block if you like, and then move right into your warrior two. And grazing that forearm to the thigh, stretch that back arm up and over. And just initially feel the stretch on that side body. And then inhaling, bend the elbow, open up through the chest. Exhale, stretch the arm up and over. And repeat that a few more times. And then release from there and draw those feet together. Inhaling, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to flat back. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhale, reach out and up. Exhaling, hands to heart center. We'll do 3 more. Inhale, sweep up. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhale to flat back. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhale, reach up. Exhaling, hands to heart. Sweep the arms up. Then release into that forward fold. Lengthen to that flat back. Release to your forward fold. Inhale, reach up. Exhaling, hands to heart center, and move through one more flow. Good. And then resting the hands on your lap. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, arch the back out. And just move through a few more of those cat-cow flows. Measure out through your breath. Just try to breathe as deep as you can without distraction. So if you feel like you're really struggling to try to maintain a breath flow, lighten up a little bit and be able to enjoy that deep breathing. And it may not be as deep as what you think it should be, but it's as deep as what you're comfortable with, and that's what's important. Good, and then bring your back to neutral. Just take a breath, check in, and see how you feel. Kind of feel throughout the shoulders, throughout the arms. We did a lot of opening up through the body before we moved into our sun salutations today. So it was a little bit different approach. So now we're going to come to our balance. So go ahead and come to your upright standing posture around to the back of your chair. And we're going to do the little bit of leg swing. Remember, this is a dynamic stretch for your hips and your glutes. So when you're standing aside and I'm holding on to the chair with my right hand, I'm going to swing that left leg forward and back. And it's not a super swing. It's just a nice, easy floating that leg forward and back. Good. And then switch it to the other side and just sweep that outside leg forward and back. Good. Then as you come here, we're going to try to go into a quad stretch. So you might want to have your strap handy. So I'm going to turn again and use my hand to hold on to the chair. If I use my strap, I'm going to loop my left ankle to that strap and then just slowly draw that leg back like so. If you're able to hold on to that ankle with your hand and draw the leg back, feel free to do that. But I'm pretty comfortable using my strap today. So I'm just going to bring that leg back. And then from here, we work with the balance. So as you anchor into that right foot, just see if you can release the chair back just a little bit. If that feels like you've got to grab onto that chair, re-grab. Just keep going. If you're more comfortable reaching that right arm out, feel free to move in that direction. But don't feel like you have to do anything. Do what you love right now. And then release from there. Switching it to the opposite side, either with your strap or holding onto the ankle with your hand. And when I looped my foot in and got the ankle, I then wrapped it around my hands a little bit, drew the hold to the back, and then brought that leg back. I've got to situate myself. My left foot always has a little bit more challenge than my right. So I've got to treat it a little differently, a little kinder, give it a little more patience. And then release from there. Go ahead and drop your straps to the side if you're using them. And then just anchor your feet hip width apart. Inhaling, reach up. And then exhale, draw the arms to the side. Now, always remember that if you feel a little unstable, just rest a hand on your chair back so that you can have something to hold on to, or take both hands to the chair. Inhaling, reach the right arm up and over. And then exhale, draw it back to the side. Then inhaling, reach the left arm up and over. And exhale, draw it back to the side. Now notice that I'm just, as I alternate from arm to arm, I'm just reaching the arm up and over, but not arcing into the stretch. So it's really just an elongating stretch along the lateral sides of my body. And one more time to each side. Then reach both arms up and release into forward fold. Good. Just let your head hang. Always remember that if that's not comfortable for you and that hanging of the head, you can always keep lifted up a little bit. And then go ahead and step both feet back into your downward facing dog. The backs of your upper arms or your elbows are pressed into that chair back, so you should have some support here. That's why we don't use a stool. We need a chair back. It'd be very challenging to try to use a stool because then we don't have as much support. Good, now let's stretch into the hamstrings. Go ahead and step the right foot forward, then stretch out through that flat back to the point of resistance that feels good. Always tapping into that kind of feeling, that sensation that it should feel good. Oftentimes when I see people stretch, it's almost painful watching them because the expression on their faces is usually like, ow, you know, this hurts. And I'm thinking, why are you stretching that far if it hurts? Because if it hurts you, then it's probably hurting your muscle. So you just want to get to the point where you're going, oh boy, that feels good. And then go ahead and step the right foot back, bring the left foot forward. Lifting up through that chest just to the point where you feel a good stretch. Good. And then step both feet forward, the back foot forward, and then round the back and roll it up. Just allow yourself to stand. This is balance too, being able to stand in one posture, both feet flat to the mat, arms relaxed to the side, maybe closing your eyes for a moment. If that feels like, I don't know if I want to do that, then don't do it. Just feel free to kind of modify what you need to so that you're embracing the practice that you need. Then if you're comfortable with both hands off of the chair, draw the hands behind you. Just clasp the hands and pull your shoulder blades in. Good. And then release by drawing the hands to the chair and step the feet back a little bit. So we're going to drop into a chair pose from our standing posture. Typically when we do chair pose, we're in the seat, but this time we're going to get a feel for really managing any knee issues and only going to the depth that feels right to you. So as I drop my hips down and back, I'm pretty much resting the weight into the heels of my feet. So let me show you sideways. I'm not bending in, dropping down and bringing my knees forward. I'm actually bending at the hips and bringing the hips down and back. So it creates that little bit of bend at the knee, but mostly the weight is resting in the heels of my feet and my knees aren't jutting towards the toes. They're actually back, more in line with my ankles. That is where Utkatasana, this posture of chair, is. And then from there, check into your low back. If you're starting to feel a lot of tension, try to pull your belly in. If that's not working, then just lift up a little bit higher. You might feel some tension in your booty muscles right here, and that's okay. That's a technical term, booty muscles. So from here, if you're comfortable where you are, just see how it feels to reach one arm out. And then release that hand back down, and then reach the opposite arm back up and out. Keep checking into your knees. Should not feel any tension or discomfort in your knees at all. And then draw that hand back down. If you can reach both arms out, great. Remember, you always have that chair to drop your hands back down to if you need a little stability, or you can always pull out of the posture anytime. Good, then relax the hands back down to the chair. We're still holding it a little bit longer, so if you need to take a break, you can stand up and out a little bit and then sink back in when you're ready, if you're ready. This next time, as I draw my right arm out, I'm gonna lift my right heel up, and I'm feeling that contraction right into the calf, and then lowering, holding onto the chair, reaching the left arm out and up, pressing into the ball of my foot as I lift the heel and down. And I'm gonna alternate from side to side there. This is a lot of strength into the calf muscles. So we're really contracting deep into those calves, but we'll give it a stretch after we get done. So we're gonna do 2 more times to each side. Always the golden rule that do less if you need to. Keep it nice and strong through your abdominals, because that helps support the pose. And 1 more time. Good, and then release to your standing Tadasana pose, and just take a breath or 2 right there. And then come to a seated posture. That was a lot of work. Drop it down into your seat and grab your block and just rest the balls of your feet on the edges of your block and drop the heels down so that you feel that stretch now. So you really worked your calf muscles, because we use our calf muscles all the time when we're in locomotion, we're walking and things like that. You don't have to be a competitive athlete to be working your calf muscles. They're always working. But what's really important is to stretch those calf muscles, because many times a lot of discomforts that we feel in the soles of our feet can be alleviated with stretching the calves. Also, discomforts at the knees, throughout the hips, up into the shoulders, can be helped with stretching your calves. It's really true. I stretch my calves a lot. And I have found that they have helped so many things that I think I've got something creeping up that's really uncomfortable. And then I go to stretch my calves, and all of a sudden it's like, I feel better. So use the calf stretch to your advantage, and just give it a few more breaths here. And remember, we haven't talked about this for a while, but when you're holding a static stretch, and this is a static stretch, you move into a posture and you hold it for a while, then you want to try to do that for at least 30 seconds to a minute. And you always want to be at the point of gentle resistance. So it takes that long for your brain to the muscle to really get the synapse to understand that, oh, you want to release here. Otherwise, it fights back a little bit. So once you get past that 30 seconds to a minute, you want to hold it a little bit longer. So that dictates your comfort zone. You should really be able to hold it that long. And just give it a few more breaths. Good, and then release from there. Drop your feet on the block and just switch those knees from side to side. Nice. Then you may want to have a little space between the back of the chair and your low back, because we're going to draw that right knee up into the chest and just circle the foot around in both directions. And then point and flex, and just point and flex. And then release and switch it to the other side. Circle it around in both directions. And then point and flex. Good, and then release your feet down. Now let's go into a hip stretch. So if you need the block to rest your foot on, you can. Otherwise, cross the ankle over the leg. Lengthen up through your spine and then lean into it. Take a few deep breaths. And then release from there and switch it to the other side, either with your block or just resting the ankle over the thigh and just lean into it, that long, lengthened spine. And then release from there. Go ahead and switch those knees from side to side and grab your strap when you're ready. Get a little water too if you need it, because oftentimes we underestimate our hydration, and you should be replenishing all the time to make sure that your body is nice and hydrated, because it makes it feel better. Go ahead and take the strap at the end of your left foot, draw the leg up, and we're going to do the circling of the leg, first in one direction and then in the other. I mean, this is making me laugh. I typically try to be fairly color coordinated, but I've never been this color coordinated, all the way down to my strap and my water bottle. I was just laughing at myself. I think my block blends in with it too. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Then go ahead and grab onto that strap and bring that leg out to the side. You can hold on to the chair, reach the arms out, whichever feels best to you. Good. And then slowly draw the leg in and grab onto it with the other hand, but then move into that seated twist. And then release from there. And switch it off to the other side. Draw the leg up and give it a little circling motion. It takes a little muscle to lift that leg and circle it around. I'll give you that. It always feels a lot heavier than what you think it is. But then I suppose that's why it's so good for grounding us to the earth. And then switch it in the other direction. And then as you hold on to it, go ahead and draw that leg out to the side and stretch. And then draw the leg in and switch it off to the other side. And then release from there. Go ahead and use your block if you want to rest your feet on the block, or if you're using a book today to support your feet. And just take your strap, double it up, and reach it up and overhead, just as high as you can. And then release from there and draw the strap behind you outside the back of your chair. And then move into your chest expansion. So if you feel like your shoulders are rolling forward and you're feeling like, the back of my neck is being squashed, then you might want to take the hands a little farther apart. And then release from there. And then just come into a comfortable seated posture. So we're going to take a little bit of time working on 3-chambered breath today, because that is something that most of us really love doing. And then we'll check into our Shavasana for a little while, that relaxation. And remember that you can do the 3-chambered breath, either reclining, upright seated, or if you're like on the mat, you want to put legs up wall, or any other particular posture that you enjoy. Feel free to move into that pose now, and then we'll start moving into our 3-chambered breath. Okay. Then relax your body and close your eyes. If you need to put a little eye pillow over your eyes, feel free to do that too. And with these next 2 or 3 breaths, feel it in the upper portion of your chest. Almost feel like your shoulders broaden with the inhale and then almost round back in with the exhale. Then move the breath to the midsection. On the inhale, feel like you're opening up the rib cage. And on the exhale, pulling it back in. Just take as much time as you need. And then with the next breath, try to move it a little deeper, more towards diaphragmatic breathing. Almost feel like you're pushing the belly out on the inhale and drawing it back in on the exhale. And then begin to relax into a rhythm of breath that feels good to you. Nice and calm and easy. And then just keep letting go right there. And when it's time to come back, I'll come for you. Take a deep breath. Move your fingers and toes a little bit. And if you're reclining on your mat or in some other reclining posture, just gradually and gently make your way back to an upright seated posture. And let's draw our hands to the heart center and just close our eyes for a moment. And the reminder from Franz Kafka, everything you love will probably be lost, but in the end, love will return it in another way. So love always comes back, no matter what. It may not be in the same form that you wanted, but it always does. Just like one cat you might have lost, another one comes along. So let your heart be open today to receive all sorts of love, because you so well deserve that. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining us today here at Yoga Oceanside for Chair Yoga. I hope you have a fabulous day. And in the meantime, I'll really look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye now.